Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the US dollar something Americans trust almost as naturally as breathing is no longer the world's dominant currency. No more strong dollar. No more safe haven. No more global default currency backed by the full faith and credit of the US government. Now imagine a coalition of nations countries that Western analysts once dismissed as developing, unstable, or too divided, quietly assembling an alternative financial empire. Piece by piece, or more accurately, bar by bar of gold. And here lies the mystery. Why are BRICS nations accumulating gold at a pace the world hasn't seen since before World War II? And more importantly, what do they know about the future of money that everyday Americans have never been told? As we dive into this story, imagine the screen slowly zooming in on a gleaming gold bar while a cinematic bass boom plays underneath. Because behind the loud headlines, the political speeches, and the Wall Street market chatter, there's a plan unfolding. A long game. A long game. A move that could unravel the dollar-esque global reign not by directly attacking it but by silently undermining the belief that it is invincible. And here is a hidden Easter egg for those paying attention. Remember the year 1971. ILL. Reveal its secret meaning later. To understand why BRICS nations are doing this, we have to go back to the origins of the global monetary system most Westerners take for granted. After World War II, the world was desperate for stability. Europe was in ruins, Asia was shattered, and many countries didn't even have functional governments. The United States, with half of the world's gold reserves, stepped forward and offered the Bretton Woods system, a global order where the US dollar would be as good as gold. Literally. For decades, countries trusted that promise. They built their economies around it. They priced oil, trade, and debt in dollars, because the US promised that every dollar was backed by gold. But then came 1971, the moment you were told to look out for. Nixon closed the gold window, effectively defaulting on gold convertibility. The screen should glitch here, with a vintage black and white clip turning into a red alert graphic as a rising heartbeat sound plays. This wasn't just a policy pivot. This was the moment the world realized the dollar was powerful only because other countries believed it was. And belief can change. BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa never forgot this. To them, 1971 wasn't an economic adjustment. It was a revelation. The dollar is strong only as long as trust remains strong. Fast forward to the 2000s. While Wall Street celebrated tech booms, Silicon Valley exploded with innovation, and the Federal Reserve engineered stimulus policies. BRICS nations quietly questioned why the US should control the world's money. So they started building a financial escape route. China became the world's top gold producer. Russia became the world's top gold buyer. India imported more gold than some central banks own. Brazil and South Africa reinforced gold and commodity reserves. And slowly, bilateral trade among these nations began shifting away from the dollar. Imagine an animation of gold streams flowing into BRICS regions, while Western analysts mock gold, calling it outdated, irrational, or a barbarous relic. But BRICS didn't care about Western opinions. Their goal wasn't to copy the US. They weren't trying to build another Wall Street. Their aim was to weaken the foundation the dollar stands on. Not the economy, not the military. Trust. And that trust had already been shaken. Every revolution needs a spark, and BRICS got theirs in the form of three major events. First came the 2008 financial crisis. As the world watched American banks collapse under their own greed, the myth of US financial superiority cracked. A dramatic crash sound and falling charts emphasized the moment. Second came the money printing spree of 2022-2021, when trillions were created out of thin air. Two BRICS leaders. That wasn't stimulus, it was dilute. Third, and most transformative, were the sanctions placed on Russia in 2022, including the freezing of its foreign reserves. That moment echoed globally. BRICS nations realized that the US could delete the savings of entire nations based on political disagreements. From their perspective, This was no longer economics, it was vulnerability. This is why gold accumulation surged. Not because gold is shiny or ancient, but because gold cannot be frozen, hacked, sanctioned, or digitally wiped out by Washington, London, or the Federal Reserve. Its independence, its sovereignty, its insurance. Meanwhile, the U.S. faces its own fallout. Record national debt, declining global confidence, persistent inflation, and growing geopolitical friction. Imagine a split-screen beast while gold prices rising on one side, the dollar index fading on the other. Now imagine the emotional moment of an American retiree watching the value of their savings erode. They trusted the system. They believed their dollars were safe. The BRICS nations are building a future where the dollar buys less, matters less, and influences less. Washington's response hasn't helped. Printing more money, raising interest rates, issuing more debt, lecturing foreign governments about rules-based order. But the harder the U.S. defends the dollar, the faster the world looks for alternatives. Sanctions pushed nations away. Rate hikes punished emerging markets. Debt expansion weakened confidence. Nothing is working the way it used to. Which brings us back to the dramatic question that drives this entire story. What happens when the world's most powerful currency is no longer trusted as the world's safest store of value? Think about your own life. When a bank charges you unfairly, do you trust them again? When a friend lies, do you forget it? When a system betrays you, do you stay loyal? Countries feel the same way. BRICS is not building a gold reserve system because they want conflict. They're building it because they want dependence. Here is a shocking parallel. Emerging markets today are buying gold faster than at any time since before 1971. The world is preparing for a future where gold becomes the backbone of new regional currencies, where oil can be traded without the dollar, where the IMF loses influence, and where the U.S. can no longer dictate global monetary policy. Imagine dark storm clouds forming over a dollar bill while a deep rumbling bass sets the tone. And here comes the final emotional beat. The world doesn't hate America. It hates being controlled. The BRICS gold plan isn't an economic rebellion, it's a psychological one. So, here is the cliffhanger question to transition into the next video. If BRICS is building a gold-backed world, what hidden weapon is the United States preparing to defend its empire? Is it a digital dollar, AI-driven monetary policy, a new global financial architecture? Before we wrap up, here are 3 actionable takeaways. First, watch global gold accumulation. Trends, not political headlines. They reveal what governments truly fear. Second, the era of US dollar dominance is shifting. Volatility is coming. Third, diversification isn't optional anymore. It's survival. If this video made you rethink how global power actually works, hit the like button so more people can escape the financial fog. Comment below and tell me, do you think BRICS can actually dethrone the dollar? And subscribe because the next video reveals the financial weapon the US is preparing but hasn't announced yet.